The key felt heavy in Heidi Martinez's hand as she stood outside her own front door, listening to the sounds of laughter and celebration coming from inside. She had rushed home from her business trip in Chicago, cutting meetings short because she missed Jake terribly. 3 months on the road was too long to be away from her husband of 5 years. She wanted to surprise him with her early return, maybe cook his favorite meal and spend a quiet evening together. But the house wasn't quiet. Through the window she could see pink and blue balloons floating near the ceiling. There were voices she recognized: her mother's laugh, her sister Nina's voice, and others from their close circle of family and friends. Her heart began to race. What kind of party was happening in her house without her? Heidi pushed open the door, expecting shouts of surprise. Maybe Jake had planned something special for her return. Instead, the room fell silent when she appeared. 20 pairs of eyes stared at her in shock and horror. Her beautiful African-American features, usually glowing with confidence, now showed pure confusion. "Heidi." Jake's voice cracked from across the living room. Her husband of 5 years stood frozen next to a table covered with wrapped gifts. His dark hair was messy, his face pale. "You're supposed to be in Chicago until Friday." "Surprise?" Heidi said slowly, taking in the scene. Pink and blue streamers hung from every surface. A banner reading "Baby Shower" stretched across the fireplace. Gift bags with tiny shoes and rattles sat on tables. Her mother, Patricia, stood near the couch holding a plate of cake, looking like she wanted to disappear into the floor. But it was the woman sitting in the chair of honor that made Heidi's world stop spinning. Carmen Rodriguez, her best friend since college, sat surrounded by opened baby gifts. Carmen's hands rested on a round belly that hadn't been there when Heidi left for her trip. 6 months pregnant, at least. "Carmen." Heidi's voice came out as a whisper. "You're pregnant." Carmen's dark eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. The room remained silent except for the soft music playing from the speakers. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath. "When were you going to tell me?" Heidi asked, stepping further into her own living room. "I'm your best friend. We talk every week while I'm traveling. You never mentioned." "Heidi, we need to talk," Jake said, moving toward her. His hands shook as he reached for her arm. "Talk about what?" Heidi pulled away from him. "Talk about how my best friend is pregnant and having a baby shower in my house while I'm away? Talk about how my own mother is here celebrating something I knew nothing about." Patricia finally found her voice. "Honey, we thought you knew. Jake said you were too busy with work to come to the shower. He said you approved of having it here." "I what?" Heidi spun around to face Jake. "I approved of what? I don't even know she's pregnant. When did this happen? How long have you been planning this behind my back?" The silence stretched until Carmen finally spoke. 8 months, she said so quietly everyone had to strain to hear. 8 months what? Carmen looked up at Jake, then back at Heidi. 8 months ago. That's when it started. Heidi felt the room spinning. 8 months ago. She tried to think back. 8 months ago, she had been traveling for work more than usual. Jake had been supportive, telling her to focus on her career. He'd encouraged her to take on bigger projects, longer trips. He'd been so understanding about the time apart. When what started? Heidi demanded, though part of her already knew. Jake ran his hands through his hair. "Heidi, please. Let's go somewhere private and talk about this." "No." Her voice came out stronger now. "We're going to talk about this right here, right now, in front of everyone who thought it was okay to have a party in my house for my best friend's pregnancy that I somehow knew nothing about." She looked around the room at the faces she'd known for years. Her mother, her sister, Jake's parents, Carmen's family, their mutual friends. All of them avoiding her eyes. "Someone needs to start talking right now," Heidi said. "Because I'm starting to put together a picture I don't like." Carmen struggled to stand up from the chair, her pregnant belly obvious now. "Heidi, I'm so sorry. We never meant for it to happen this way." "What way? What happened?" Jake stepped between them. "Carmen and we've been seeing each other. The baby is mine." The words hit Heidi like a physical blow. She staggered backward, bumping into the wall. The baby was Jake's. Her husband and her best friend had been having an affair for 8 months. Carmen was 6 months pregnant with Jake's child. And everyone in this room knew except her. "You've been seeing each other," Heidi repeated slowly. "While I've been traveling for work. While I've been calling Carmen every week asking for advice about my marriage. While I've been working extra hours to save money for the house we've been planning to buy." "Heidi," Carmen started. "Don't." Heidi held up her hand. "Don't say my name right now." She looked around the room again. "You all knew. Every single person in this room knew my husband was cheating on me with my best friend, getting her pregnant and having baby showers in my house. And nobody thought to pick up a phone and call me. We thought you knew, her sister Nina said weakly. Jake said you were okay with it. He said you two had talked about divorce and you were fine with him moving on. He said what? Heidi's voice rose. I never talked about divorce. We never talked about divorce. I've been working my ass off to build a life with this man. The room erupted in confused voices. Family members started talking over each other, asking Jake questions, demanding explanations. But Heidi heard none of it. She was staring at the gifts piled around Carmen's chair. Baby clothes, toys, furniture. Expensive items that cost more than Jake made in a month. How did you pay for all this? She asked Jake, cutting through the noise. What? The gifts, the decorations, this party. How did you pay for it? You don't have this kind of money. Jake's face went white. Carmen looked away. Heidi's business mind kicked in, the same instincts that made her successful in her career. You used our joint account, didn't you? You've been using our savings, our house fund, to buy gifts for your pregnant girlfriend. Heidi, let me explain. But Heidi was already walking toward the door. She'd heard enough. She'd seen enough. The man she'd loved and trusted for 5 years had betrayed her in every possible way. The woman she'd considered a sister had stabbed her in the back. And her own family had been part of the deception. Where are you going? Jake called after her. Heidi paused at the door and turned back one last time. She looked at the faces of everyone who had betrayed her trust, everyone who had chosen to celebrate a lie instead of telling her the truth. I'm going to figure out exactly how much this betrayal is going to cost you, she said. Both of you. Then she walked out of her own house, closing the door on her old life forever. Heidi sat in her car in the driveway for 10 minutes, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Through the window she could see the shadows of people moving around inside her house. Her house. The house she'd been paying the mortgage on while Jake played house with Carmen. Her phone buzzed with text messages, but she ignored them. She needed to think, needed to process what had just happened. But every time she tried to make sense of it, her mind came back to the same horrible truth. Everyone knew except her. Jake came outside and tapped on her car window. Heidi, please. Come back inside so we can talk about this properly. She rolled down the window just enough to speak. Get away from my car, Jake. This is my house too. We need to work this out like adults. Adults? Heidi laughed, but there was no humor in it. Adults don't have affairs with their wife's best friend. Adults don't steal money from joint accounts to fund their secret relationships. Adults don't lie to an entire room of people and throw baby showers behind their spouse's back. Jake looked around nervously. The neighbors are going to hear you. Good. Let them hear. Let everyone know what kind of man you really are. Carmen appeared behind Jake, moving slowly because of her pregnancy. Heidi, please don't leave like this. We need to talk. Heidi stared at her former best friend. Carmen's long black hair was styled perfectly, her makeup flawless despite the tears. She was wearing a beautiful maternity dress that probably cost more than Heidi spent on clothes in 3 months. Another purchase funded by stolen money, no doubt. We need to talk? Heidi repeated. About what? About how you've been sleeping with my husband for 8 months. About how you've been lying to my face every week when I called you for advice. About how you convinced my own family that I knew about your affair. It wasn't supposed to happen, Carmen said. It just did. Bullshit. Heidi's voice cut through the evening air. Affairs don't just happen. They're planned. They're chosen. Every lie you told me, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to be my friend while you were screwing my husband, those were choices. Jake stepped forward. Heidi, you have to understand. You've been gone so much for work. We barely see each other anymore. I was lonely and Carmen was there. Don't you dare blame me for your cheating. Heidi's voice was ice cold. I was working to build our future. I was traveling for business to save money so we could buy the bigger house you said you wanted, so we could start the family you said you were ready for. But apparently, you were already starting that family with someone else. She started the car engine. Get away from my car. Both of you. Where are you going? Jake demanded. That's not your concern anymore. Carmen placed her hand on her belly, a gesture that looked calculated to gain sympathy. Heidi, I know you're hurt, but think about the baby. This is innocent in all of this. You think about the baby, Heidi snapped. You think about how you're going to explain to that child that mommy broke up a marriage and daddy is a lying thief. You think about how you're going to raise a baby with a man who's proven he can't be trusted. She backed out of the driveway, leaving Jake and Carmen standing in the street. In her rearview mirror, she could see her family and friends coming out of the house, everyone talking at once, the party she'd interrupted now fully broken up. Heidi drove to the nearest hotel and checked in for the night. She sat on the bed and finally looked at her phone. 37 missed calls and 42 text messages. Jake, Carmen, her mother, her sister, even some of the party guests who were just now realizing they'd been part of a massive deception. She deleted all the messages without reading them and called her assistant. "Heidi? I thought you were coming back Friday," Natasha said. "Change of plans. I need you to do something for me first thing tomorrow morning. Find me the best divorce attorney in the city. I need someone who specializes in adultery cases and financial fraud." "Oh my God, Heidi. What happened?" "I'll explain later. Just find me a lawyer and get me an appointment as soon as possible. Also, I need you to call our bank first thing in the morning and freeze all joint accounts under my name and Jake's name. I'm the primary account holder, so I have the right to do that." "Should I ask why?" "My husband has been stealing from our savings to fund an affair. I need to stop the bleeding before he takes any more." There was silence on the other end of the line. Natasha had worked for Heidi for 3 years and knew her well enough to understand this wasn't a rash decision. "I'll make the calls," Natasha said. "Anything else you need? Book me a suite at the Marriott downtown for the next 2 weeks. I need time to figure out my next moves." After she hung up, Heidi finally allowed herself to feel the full impact of what had happened. The betrayal wasn't just about Jake cheating. It was about Carmen, the woman she trusted with her deepest secrets, her fears about her marriage, her hopes for the future. Carmen had listened to all of it while carrying Jake's baby. It was about her family choosing to believe Jake's lies instead of contacting her directly. Her own mother had attended a baby shower celebrating her husband's affair, and had believed she was okay with it. But as the tears came, something else began building inside her. Anger. Pure, focused rage at the people who had treated her like a fool. They thought she was too busy with work to notice. They thought she was too trusting to fight back. They thought wrong. Heidi Martinez had built a successful career by being smarter than her competition, by planning ahead, by turning obstacles into opportunities. Jake and Carmen had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. They had no idea who they were dealing with. She pulled out her laptop and began making lists. Financial records she needed to access. Evidence she needed to gather. People she needed to call. Jake thought he was clever, but he'd forgotten one important thing. Heidi was better at planning than he was at lying. By the time she fell asleep that night, she had the beginning of a strategy. Jake and Carmen wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that when you betray someone who's smarter than you better be prepared for the consequences. Heidi woke up at 5 a.m., her mind already racing with plans. She'd slept better than expected considering her world had imploded 12 hours earlier. Maybe it was because, for the first time in months, she knew exactly where she stood. No more wondering why Jake seemed distant, no more questioning Carmen's strange advice about giving Jake space. Her phone showed 43 new messages. She deleted them all without reading. At 8 a.m. sharp, she was sitting in the office of Patricia Wells, the best divorce attorney in the city according to Natasha's research. Patricia was a sharp woman in her 50s with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Tell me everything," Patricia said, setting down her coffee and opening a legal pad. Heidi laid out the timeline methodically. The 8-month affair. The pregnancy. The secret apartment Jake had been renting. The baby shower in her own house. The joint accounts being used to fund his double life. "How much money are we talking about?" Patricia asked. "I won't know until I get the bank records, but probably around $40,000. Maybe more." Heidi's voice remained steady. "He's been making cash withdrawals, using our credit cards for things I didn't recognize. I thought he was just bad at budgeting." Patricia made notes. "What assets do you share?" "The house, 2 cars, savings accounts, retirement funds, my stock portfolio." Heidi pulled out a folder she'd prepared. "I brought copies of everything I could find. I've been the primary earner for the past 3 years. Most of the assets are in my name or were purchased with my income." "Good. That makes things cleaner." Patricia looked up. "What are your goals here?" "Some people want to try counseling first." "No." Heidi's answer was immediate. "I want him out of my house, out of my life, and I want him to pay for what he stole. I also want to make sure Carmen faces consequences for her part in this. We can handle Jake legally. Carmen is trickier since she's not married to you, but if she participated in any financial fraud, there might be options." Heidi nodded. "I want to hire a private investigator too. I need to know everything. How long this has really been going on, where they've been meeting, what other lies they've told." I can recommend someone. Marcus Thompson is the best. No. Heidi shook her head. Not Marcus. Anyone else. Patricia raised an eyebrow but made a different note. Robert Chin then. He's also excellent. Heidi hesitated. Actually, do you have someone who isn't named Marcus or Chin? I know it sounds weird, but I have my reasons. Of course. Helen Rodriguez. No relation to your husband's girlfriend, I assume? Carmen Rodriguez. But no, different family, I'm sure. They spent the next hour going over strategy. Patricia would file for divorce immediately, citing adultery and financial fraud. Heidi would move back into the house. It was hers after all, and Jake would have to leave. The private investigator would start documenting everything immediately. One more thing, Heidi said as they wrapped up. I want everything to be public record. I don't want sealed documents or confidentiality agreements. I want anyone who cares to look to be able to see exactly what kind of man Jake is. That's unusual. Most people prefer privacy in divorce proceedings. Most people's husbands don't throw baby showers for their pregnant mistresses in the family home. Heidi's smile was cold. Privacy is what allowed this to happen in the first place. Everyone keeping secrets, everyone assuming I knew. I'm done with secrets. After the lawyer's office, Heidi met with Helen Rodriguez, the private investigator. Helen was a small woman with kind eyes, but Heidi could tell she was tough underneath. I need to know everything, Heidi said. Every hotel they've stayed at, every restaurant they've eaten at, every lie they've told. I need documentation of the secret apartment, proof of how much money he spent on this affair. Do you want me to follow them going forward or just investigate the past? Both. I have a feeling they're not done lying. Helen nodded. Most cheaters aren't. They usually double down when they get caught. How did your husband react when you found out? He tried to blame me for working too much. Carmen tried to make me feel sorry for her because she's pregnant. Classic. They'll probably spend the next few weeks trying to convince people that you're the bad guy for not being understanding about their love story. Heidi laughed bitterly. Let them try. The truth has a way of coming out. That afternoon, Heidi went back to the house. Jake's car was in the driveway, but Carmen's wasn't. She found Jake in the living room, cleaning up the remnants of the baby shower. The balloons were gone, but gift wrap and empty plates were scattered around. Heidi, thank God you're here. We need to talk. No, we don't. She handed him a manila folder. Divorce papers. You have 30 days to respond. Patricia Wells is my attorney if you have any questions. Jake stared at the papers like they might burst into flames. You filed for divorce? Already? It's been less than 24 hours. When you find out your spouse has been stealing money to fund an 8-month affair that resulted in a pregnancy, 24 minutes is too long to wait. I wasn't stealing. It's our money. It was our money. Now it's frozen until the court divides it properly. Heidi walked to the kitchen and began packing Jake's belongings into boxes she'd bought on the way home. You have until Friday to get your stuff out of my house. Your house. This is our house. Check the deed. My name, my down payment, my mortgage payments for the past 2 years since you cut back your hours at work. She didn't look at him as she packed his coffee mugs. You can take your clothes, your books, your electronics. Everything else stays. Jake followed her around the kitchen. Heidi, please. I know I messed up, but we can work through this. Carmen and I, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been cheating on me for 8 months, got her pregnant, and used our money to fund your double life. What part of that am I misunderstanding? The baby? Jake started. Is not my problem. Heidi's voice was firm. You want to be a father? Great. Figure out how to do that without stealing from me. Jake grabbed her arm. Carmen needs support right now. The stress of all this could hurt the baby. Heidi stopped packing and looked at him directly. Let me be very clear about something, Jake. I don't care about Carmen. I don't care about her pregnancy. I don't care about her stress levels or her feelings or her needs. She made her choice when she decided to sleep with my husband. You both did. She pulled her arm free. The only thing I care about now is making sure you both face the consequences of those choices. Fair consequences. What's that supposed to mean? Heidi smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It means you're about to find out what happens when you betray someone who's smarter than you are. The bank records made for interesting reading. Heidi spread them across her hotel room bed like a detective working a case. 3 months of statements, highlighting every suspicious transaction in yellow. The pattern was clear once she knew what to look for. Cash withdrawals every Friday, usually $200 or $300. Charges at expensive restaurants she'd never been to. A recurring monthly charge for $1,800 that turned out to be rent on a furnished apartment across town. Online purchases from baby stores, jewelry stores, lingerie boutiques. The total came to $67,000 over 8 months. $67,000 of their house fund, their emergency savings, their future, spent on Jake's affair. Her phone rang. Helen Rodriguez, the private investigator. I have some preliminary findings, Helen said. Are you sitting down? I'm ready. The apartment he's been renting? He signed a 1-year lease 6 months ago. Told the landlord he was separated and waiting for his divorce to finalize. He's been telling people you two split up months ago. Heidi felt her anger crystallize into something harder, colder. What else? I tracked some of the restaurant charges. He's been taking Carmen out for expensive dinners twice a week, telling servers they're celebrating their engagement. At 3 different places, he introduced her as his fiancée. While still married to me. While still married to you. There's more. Carmen's baby shower yesterday? It wasn't the first one. They had another one last month at her sister's house. Smaller group, mostly Carmen's family and co-workers. Heidi closed her eyes. So they've been playing house for months, telling people they're engaged, having multiple baby showers, all while I'm working my ass off thinking I'm saving money for our future. I'm sorry, Heidi. I know this is hard to hear. Actually, it's not hard to hear. It's evidence. Heidi opened her laptop. Can you document all of this? I want dates, times, witnesses, receipts. Already on it. I'll have a full report by Friday. After Helen hung up, Heidi called Patricia Wells. I have good news and bad news, she told her attorney. The good news is I have documentation of $67,000 in marital funds being used for the affair. The bad news is it's worse than I thought. She filled Patricia in on Helen's findings. The fake engagement, the multiple baby showers, the lies about being separated. This is actually great news, Patricia said. The more lies he's told, the better our case gets. Judges don't like fraud, and they really don't like fraud combined with adultery. What are my options? Well, we can demand full restitution of the stolen funds, plus interest and legal fees. We can ask for the house, the cars, and a larger share of retirement accounts to compensate for his theft. And if he's been claiming to be single while still married, there might be criminal implications. Heidi felt a surge of satisfaction. Do it. All of it. There's one more thing. Since he's been telling people you're separated, and since he's been introducing Carmen as his fiancée, we might have grounds for a fraud case beyond just the money. He's been representing himself as single, which could affect any contracts he's signed, any financial commitments he's made. What kind of commitments? Let me have Helen look into that. If he's applied for credit cards as a single man, if he signed any legal documents claiming to be unmarried, we could have additional charges. That afternoon, Heidi drove to Jake's workplace. Morrison Marketing was a small firm where Jake had worked for 3 years. Heidi knew his boss, Tom Morrison, from company holiday parties. Heidi. What a surprise, Tom said when she walked into his office. Jake said you were out of town on business. I came back early. Tom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Tom's smile faded. He was a good man, father of 3, married for 20 years. What's going on? Has Jake told you anything about our marriage? About us having problems? Tom shifted uncomfortably. Heidi, I don't know if I should get involved in personal matters. Please. It's important. Tom sighed. He mentioned that you two were having some difficulties. Said you were focused on your career and he was feeling left behind. He asked for some time off last month to deal with personal matters. What kind of personal matters? He said he was going through a separation and needed time to look for a new place to live. Heidi nodded. Another lie documented. Tom, Jake and I never separated. We never even discussed separation. He's been having an affair for 8 months and he's been using our joint savings to fund it. Tom's face went white. Oh shit. Heidi, I had no idea. I'm not telling you this to get Jake in trouble at work. But I need you to know the truth because he's probably going to ask for more favors, more time off, maybe even a salary advance. He's stolen $67,000 from our accounts and he's going to need money when the court orders him to pay it back. Jesus Christ. Tom ran his hands through his hair. I promoted him 6 months ago because he said he needed the extra income to support his family while you were traveling so much. He got a promotion? $15,000 salary increase. He said you two were trying to buy a bigger house and start a family. Heidi almost laughed. Jake had gotten a raise by claiming he needed to support his wife, then spent the extra money on his pregnant girlfriend. Tom, I need to ask you one more favor. When Jake comes to you asking for advances or special treatment over the next few months, please remember this conversation. Tom nodded. Heidi, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Jake seemed like a good guy. Seemed like, Heidi agreed. That's the problem with cheaters. They're really good at seeming like good guys. That evening, Heidi went back to the house to pack more of Jake's belongings. She found him in the kitchen making dinner. I got the new bank statements, she said without preamble. $67,000, Jake. You stole $67,000 from our accounts. Jake put down his fork. I didn't steal anything. I used our money for things I needed. You needed a $800 necklace for your pregnant girlfriend? How do you know about that? I know about all of it. The secret apartment you've been renting for 6 months. The engagement you've been faking. The promotion you got by lying about needing to support me. Jake's face crumpled. Heidi, please. Let me explain. Explain what? How you told your boss we were separated when we weren't. How you introduced Carmen as your fiancée while you were still married to me. How you had 2 baby showers because one wasn't enough celebrating. You don't understand. Carmen and I, we fell in love. Real love. The kind of love you and I never had. Heidi stared at him. You think this is about love? You think I care about your feelings for Carmen? Don't you? Jake, I don't care if you fell in love with the Queen of England. When you cheat on your spouse and steal their money to fund your affair, it stops being about love and starts being about crime. She handed him another set of legal papers. Restraining order. You have 24 hours to get your stuff and get out. If you come back after that, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. Jake looked at the papers in shock. You can't kick me out of my own house. It's not your house. It never was. And after you stole our down payment money for the new house, it never will be. As Heidi walked toward the door, Jake called after her. What about forgiveness? What about Christian values? I thought you believed in second chances. Heidi turned back one last time. I believe in consequences, she said. And you're about to learn the difference. The next morning, Heidi sat in her mother's kitchen, documents spread across the table between them. Patricia Martinez looked older than her 60 years, her dark hair streaked with more gray than Heidi remembered. She stared at the bank statements and private investigators' report like they might disappear if she looked hard enough. I don't understand, Patricia said finally. Jake told us you knew. He said you were okay with him seeing Carmen because you two had grown apart. Mom, look at these dates. Heidi pointed to the timeline Helen had created. March 15th, Jake starts the affair with Carmen. April 2nd, I call you crying because I think Jake is pulling away from me, and you tell me to be patient with him. April 20th, Jake rents the secret apartment. May 5th, I ask you if you think I should surprise Jake with a romantic getaway for our anniversary, and you tell me he needs space. Patricia's hands trembled as she looked at the evidence. But he said. He lied, Mom. To all of you. While I was calling you for marriage advice, he was already living a double life. Heidi's voice was calm, but her mother could hear the pain underneath. While I was working extra hours to save money for the house Jake said he wanted, he was stealing that money to buy gifts for his pregnant girlfriend. The baby shower, Patricia whispered. Oh God, Heidi. We thought you knew. You thought I knew my husband was cheating on me and got another woman pregnant, and I was okay with celebrating it? Heidi shook her head. Did that really make sense to you? Patricia started crying. He was so convincing. He said you two had talked about it, that you were focusing on your career and didn't want children right now. He said you were happy for them. And you didn't think to call me? To ask me directly? He said you were embarrassed about the divorce, that you didn't want people to know until it was final. Heidi sighed. Her mother was a good woman, but she'd always been too trusting, too willing to believe the best in people. Mom, I need to ask you something. Are you going to choose sides in this? What do you mean? I mean, are you going to keep believing Jake's lies or are you going to support your daughter? Patricia wiped her eyes. You're my daughter. Of course I support you. Even if it means admitting you made a mistake? Patricia looked at the evidence again, really looked at it this time. The credit card charges at jewelry stores. The apartment lease signed 6 months ago. The photos Helen had taken of Jake and Carmen at restaurants, holding hands, Carmen showing off a ring on her left hand. Oh, sweetheart, she said finally. I'm so sorry. We failed you. You believed a liar. It happens. Heidi reached across the table and took her mother's hand. But I need you to do something for me now. Anything. I need you to tell everyone the truth. Everyone who was at that baby shower needs to know that they were celebrating an affair, not a legitimate pregnancy. They were part of Jake's deception, and they deserve to know it. Patricia nodded slowly. Your sister Nina is going to be devastated. She bought Carmen one of those expensive strollers. Carmen can keep the stroller. But Nina needs to know the truth about who she was buying it for. That afternoon, Heidi met with Carmen's supervisor at the insurance company where both Carmen and Jake worked. Sandra Mitchell was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who'd been managing Carmen's department for 5 years. This is a delicate situation, Sandra said after Heidi explained why she was there. We can't really get involved in employees' personal lives. This isn't about personal lives. This is about professional conduct. Heidi handed Sandra copies of the photos Helen had taken. Carmen and Jake have been having an affair for 8 months. They've been using company time and resources to conduct their relationship. And they've been lying to co-workers about their marital status. Sandra studied the photos. These were taken during work hours? 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Carmen was supposed to be at a client meeting according to her calendar. Jake was supposed to be in the office. And you said Jake has been telling people he's single? He's been introducing Carmen as his fiancée. To clients, to vendors at company events. While still married to me. Sandra frowned. That's a problem. If he's misrepresenting his marital status to clients, it could affect his professional credibility. And if Carmen has been lying about her relationship status. There's more. Heidi pulled out another document. Carmen applied for the company's family health insurance plan 6 months ago. She claimed she was in a domestic partnership with Jake. She's been getting benefits for her pregnancy based on a relationship with a married man. Oh no. Sandra's face went pale. That's insurance fraud. She could be fired for that. I'm not asking you to fire anyone. I'm just asking you to investigate and take appropriate action. Sandra nodded grimly. We'll look into this immediately. That evening, Heidi's sister Nina came to the hotel. Nina was 3 years younger than Heidi, a kindergarten teacher with 2 kids of her own. She'd always looked up to her big sister, which made her betrayal even more painful. Mom told me, Nina said, settling into the hotel room's chair. She looked exhausted. Heidi, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. You were lied to. But I should have called you. I should have asked you directly instead of believing Jake. Nina shook her head. I kept thinking it was weird that you were okay with him dating someone else, but he was so convincing. What exactly did he tell you? He said you two had been growing apart for over a year. He said you'd had a big fight about starting a family, and you'd decided you were too focused on your career for children. He said you'd agreed to separate but were keeping it quiet until after your big project at work was finished. Heidi nodded. It was a clever lie incorporating just enough truth to be believable. She had been working more, she had been traveling frequently, and she and Jake had talked about having children someday. He said Carmen was helping both of you through the transition, Nina continued. That she was being a good friend to both of you. And the baby shower? He said you couldn't come because you were out of town, but you'd insisted they have it at your house because you wanted Carmen to feel supported. Nina, does any of that sound like me? Do I seem like the kind of person who would throw a party for my husband's new girlfriend in my own house? Nina's eyes filled with tears. No, it doesn't sound like you at all. I should have known something was wrong. You should have called me. I know. I'm sorry. Nina wiped her eyes. What can I do now? How can I help? I need you to talk to everyone who was at that baby shower. I need them to know the truth. Jake has been spinning this story that I'm the bad guy for not being understanding about his new relationship. People need to know it was never his new relationship. It was an affair. Nina nodded. I'll call everyone tonight. And Nina? I need you to be prepared for the fallout. When people find out they were duped into celebrating an affair, some of them are going to be angry. At Jake and Carmen, but also at themselves for believing the lies. I understand. Heidi hugged her sister. I'm not angry at you, Nina. But I need to know that this won't happen again. If someone tells you something about me, call me and ask. I will. I promise. After Nina left, Heidi sat alone in her hotel room, reviewing the day's progress. Her family was starting to understand the truth. Jake and Carmen were facing professional consequences. The legal case was building stronger every day. But she wasn't done yet. Not even close. She pulled out her laptop and began typing. It was time for the truth to go public. Heidi's LinkedIn post went live at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. She'd spent 3 hours crafting it, making sure every word was precise, every fact verifiable, every statement legally sound. Patricia Wells had reviewed it twice. Sometimes life teaches you lessons you never expected to learn. This week, I discovered that my husband of 5 years has been having an affair with my best friend for the past 8 months. I learned this when I returned home early from a business trip to find them hosting a baby shower in my house for her pregnancy, a celebration my entire family attended because they were told I approved of my husband's new relationship. I share this not for sympathy but for clarity. In business and in life, integrity matters. Honesty matters. When people lie to you, steal from you, and manipulate those around you to cover their deception, there must be consequences. To my professional network, thank you for your support during this difficult time. I'm reminded that success isn't just about financial achievement, but about surrounding yourself with people who share your values. To my family and friends, I understand you were lied to, and I forgive you for believing those lies. But I hope this experience reminds all of us that when something seems too strange to be true, it's worth asking questions directly. I'm sharing this because truth has power, and some people need to be reminded that actions have consequences. The post received 847 likes, 203 comments, and 156 shares within the first hour. Heidi's phone started ringing immediately. Tom Morrison, Jake's boss, called first. "Heidi, I saw your post. Is there anything I should know about Jake's employment here?" "Tom, I can't tell you how to run your business, but you should know that Jake has been using company time to conduct his affair. He's been lying about his marital status to clients and co-workers. And he got his promotion 6 months ago by claiming he needed extra money to support me while I was traveling, then spent that extra money on his girlfriend. Jesus. I need to talk to HR about this." "That's your decision. I just wanted you to have the facts." Next was her business partner, Michelle, from the consulting firm where Heidi was a senior director. "Girl, I just saw your LinkedIn post. Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay. I'm clear-headed for the first time in months. Do you need time off? We can handle the Peterson project without you. Actually, I want to take on more projects. I need to stay busy, and I need to rebuild my financial security quickly. Whatever you need. Also, I have to ask, is this going to affect the Morrison Marketing contract?" Heidi paused. Morrison Marketing was one of their biggest clients and Jake worked there. But business was business. Not from my end. If Tom Morrison wants to make personnel changes, that's his decision. But I won't let my personal life affect our professional relationship. By noon, Helen Rodriguez called with an update. "Jake and Carmen are panicking. I've been watching the apartment, and they've had 3 heated arguments on the balcony in the past 2 days. Yesterday, Carmen's sister showed up and there was a lot of shouting." "What kind of shouting?" "From what I could hear, Carmen's family is asking why she lied to them about Jake being separated. They're realizing they attended a baby shower for an affair, and they're not happy about being made to look like fools." "Good. What else?" "Jake's been trying to get a loan to pay for a new apartment deposit. He's been turned down by 3 banks so far because his credit is maxed out and he has no savings. Because he spent our savings on the affair." "Exactly. Oh, and there's something else. Carmen called in sick to work today, but I followed her to a doctor's appointment. High-risk pregnancy clinic. She's been having complications." Heidi felt a moment of concern, then pushed it away. "That's not my problem." "No, but it is Jake's problem. Medical bills for high-risk pregnancy care are expensive, and Carmen's insurance might not cover everything if there are issues with her employment." That afternoon, Heidi met with 2 potential new clients who'd reached out after seeing her LinkedIn post. Both were women going through divorces who needed business consulting to rebuild their careers. "I saw what you wrote," said Jennifer, a 42-year-old marketing executive. "My husband left me for his 25-year-old secretary, and I need help repositioning myself in the job market." "I can help with that," Heidi said. "What kind of timeline are we looking at?" "I want to be financially independent within 6 months. I want to be so successful that he regrets ever leaving me." Heidi smiled. "I like your attitude." The second client, Rebecca, had a different story but the same determination. "My husband cleaned out our business accounts when he left. I need help rebuilding my consulting practice and proving to the court that I can be financially stable without him." "Have you documented the theft?" "Every penny. My lawyer says it's a good case, but I need to show income stability to get a fair settlement." These women reminded Heidi why she loved her work. Business wasn't just about money, it was about power, independence, and the ability to control your own future. That evening Jake called. Heidi almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "You need to take down that LinkedIn post," he said without preamble. "No. It's affecting my job, Heidi." Tom Morrison is asking questions I can't answer. Then answer them honestly for once. I could lose my job over this. You should have thought of that before you stole $67,000 and lied to your boss about your marital status. Carmen is having complications with the pregnancy. The stress from all this is making her sick. Jake, let me be very clear about something. Carmen's health is not my responsibility. Carmen's pregnancy is not my problem. Carmen's stress level is not my concern. You made your choices, both of you. Now deal with the consequences. She could lose the baby. That's between you, Carmen, and her doctor. It has nothing to do with me. How can you be so cold? Heidi almost laughed. Cold? Jake, you stole money from our joint account to buy gifts for your pregnant girlfriend. You threw baby showers in my house while telling people I approved. You lied to my family, your boss, and everyone we know. And you think I'm the one being cold? I never meant for it to happen this way. You meant for all of it to happen. You just didn't mean to get caught. She hung up and immediately blocked his number. Her phone rang again. Carmen. Heidi, please. We need to talk. No, we don't. I'm scared. The doctors say the stress could cause early labor. I could lose the baby. Carmen, you made your choice when you decided to sleep with my husband. You made your choice when you lied to my face for 8 months. You made your choice when you convinced my family to attend your baby shower. I don't owe you anything. But the baby is innocent. The baby is not my responsibility. You want to protect your pregnancy? Stop lying, stop stealing, and stop expecting me to clean up the mess you created. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. Every time you slept with my husband, every time you lied to my face, every time you spent my money on your affair, you chose to hurt me. You just didn't expect to get caught. Heidi hung up and blocked Carmen's number too. She was done being manipulated. Done being made to feel guilty for other people's choices. Done being the understanding one while everyone else got to play victim. Jake and Carmen had made their bed. Literally. Now they could lie in it. Saturday morning, Heidi woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Something big had happened overnight. The first call was from her sister Nina, practically hyperventilating. Heidi, have you seen Facebook? Have you looked at social media? It's everywhere. What's everywhere? The story. About Jake and Carmen. Someone shared your LinkedIn post and it's gone viral in our community. Everyone is talking about it. Heidi grabbed her laptop. Her LinkedIn post had been shared 2,847 times and had 15,000 likes. But that wasn't the big story. The big story was what happened when Jake tried to do damage control. Apparently, Jake had posted his own version of events on Facebook at 2 a.m., claiming Heidi was lying about their separation, saying she was being vindictive and trying to ruin his relationship with Carmen out of jealousy. He'd painted himself as the victim of an unhinged ex-wife who couldn't let go. The post had backfired spectacularly. Helen Rodriguez, the private investigator, had been monitoring social media and screenshot everything. Jake's post had received 347 comments, and 90% of them were people calling him out for his lies. Family members, friends, co-workers, and even strangers had responded with their own evidence. Nina had shared the bank records showing the stolen money. Patricia, Heidi's mother, had posted a heartbreaking apology explaining how Jake had lied to the family and manipulated them into attending the baby shower. Tom Morrison had commented professionally but pointedly, "Jake, this doesn't match what you told me about your marital status. We need to talk Monday morning." Carmen's sister had posted, "I can't believe you made our whole family part of your lies. We thought Heidi knew and approved. I'm so embarrassed." But the comment that really caught everyone's attention was from Carmen herself, posted at 3 a.m. "Jake, stop. Just stop. You're making everything worse. Heidi has every right to be angry. What we did was wrong and everyone knows it now. Please just stop lying." Heidi stared at the screenshot. Carmen's comment had 156 likes and dozens of replies, mostly people saying they appreciated her honesty but condemning her for participating in the affair in the first place. Jake had deleted his original post, but Helen had screenshots of everything and several people had shared copies. The internet never forgets. Her phone rang. Patricia Wells, her attorney. "Have you seen the social media explosion?" Patricia asked. "Just catching up on it now. This is actually good for our case. Jake's post last night constitutes libel. He called you vindictive and claimed you were lying about facts we can prove in court. And the public nature of all this supports our argument that he's been deliberately deceiving people about his marital status." What about Carmen's comment? The one where she admits they were wrong. That's a gift. She just publicly admitted to the affair and acknowledged that what they did was wrong. That's evidence we can use. Heidi's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Carmen. Please call me. We need to fix this. She showed the text to her reflection in the hotel mirror and laughed out loud. Now Carmen wanted to fix this. After 8 months of deception, after stealing her money, after convincing her family to celebrate their affair, now Carmen wanted to work together to solve their problems. Not a chance. Instead of calling Carmen, Heidi called Helen Rodriguez. The social media meltdown has given us some interesting new information, Helen said. I've been documenting the responses, and several people have mentioned things they didn't feel comfortable sharing before. What kind of things? Jake's coworker mentioned that Jake has been using the company credit card for personal expenses, dinners with Carmen, gifts, even gas for personal trips. That's embezzlement. Seriously? I'm tracking down documentation now. Also, Carmen's neighbor said she saw Jake moving furniture into Carmen's apartment during work hours on multiple occasions. Using a company truck. So he's been stealing from his employer too. Looks like it. And there's more. 3 different people mentioned that Jake has been telling people he's divorced, not separated. He's been completely denying that he's still married to you. Heidi felt that familiar surge of cold anger. Anything else? Carmen's ex-roommate reached out to me directly. She said Carmen bragged about taking Jake from his boring wife, and said she was going to live the life Heidi was too stupid to appreciate. She said that. According to the roommate, Carmen planned this whole thing. She deliberately pursued Jake because he was married to someone successful. She wanted your life. Heidi was quiet for a moment, processing this information. The affair wasn't just about attraction or falling in love. Carmen had targeted her marriage deliberately, seeing Heidi's success and wanting to take it for herself. Helen, I need you to document all of this. Every comment, every witness statement, every piece of evidence. I want a complete record. Already on it. Also, I should tell you Jake and Carmen had another fight this morning. Carmen's packed a bag and gone to her sister's house. Word is they've broken up. Because of the social media backlash? Partly that, partly the financial pressure, and partly because Carmen finally realized that a man who cheats on his wife will probably cheat on his girlfriend too. That afternoon, Heidi received a call from someone she hadn't expected to hear from. Carmen's mother, Rosa Rodriguez. Heidi, this is Rosa. Carmen's mother. Can we talk? Heidi hesitated. I'm not sure there's anything to talk about, Mrs. Rodriguez. Please. I need to apologize to you and I need to ask you something. They met at a coffee shop near Heidi's hotel. Rosa was a small woman in her 50s with kind eyes that reminded Heidi painfully of Carmen. She looked exhausted. I'm so sorry, Rosa said immediately. I raised Carmen better than this. I don't understand how she could do something so terrible. I don't understand it either. She told us you were separated. She said Jake was divorced and you were happy for them. We never would have supported this if we knew the truth. Heidi nodded. I know. You were lied to. I've been thinking about this all night and I need to ask you something. Do you think Carmen really believed Jake when he said you two were separated? Or do you think she knew she was helping him cheat? It was a fair question and Heidi had been wondering the same thing. Mrs. Rodriguez, your daughter called me every week while this was happening. She listened to me worry about my marriage, give me advice about how to reconnect with Jake, help me plan romantic surprises for him. If she really believed we were separated, why would she do that? Rosa's face crumpled. She knew. She knew you were still married and trying to save your marriage and she sabotaged it. I think so, yes. I'm so ashamed. I raised her to be better than this. You're not responsible for your adult daughter's choices. Rosa wiped her eyes. What can I do? How can I make this right? You can't. But you can make sure Carmen faces the consequences of her choices without trying to protect her from them. What do you mean? I mean if she's having pregnancy complications because of stress, that's not my fault. If she's facing professional consequences at work, that's not my problem. If Jake broke up with her because he realized she's not trustworthy, that's not my responsibility to fix. Rosa nodded slowly. You're right. She's my daughter and she's pregnant and I want to help her. Help her by teaching her to take responsibility for her actions. Help her by not making excuses for what she did. Help her by showing her that bad choices have real consequences. Will you ever be able to forgive her? Heidi considered the question. Maybe someday. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to trust her again or have a relationship with her, or help her fix the mess she created. Forgiveness is something I might do for myself, not for her. After Rosa left, Heidi sat alone in the coffee shop, thinking about forgiveness and consequences and the difference between the two. She wasn't ready to forgive yet, and she might never be. But she was ready to move forward with her life. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Jake again, using someone else's phone. Heidi, please. Carmen left me. I lost my job. I have nothing. Can we talk about working this out? She deleted the message without responding. Jake's problems were not hers to solve. Carmen's problems were not hers to fix. She had her own life to rebuild, her own future to create. And it was going to be magnificent. Monday morning brought the news Heidi had been expecting. Tom Morrison called at 8 a.m. Heidi, I wanted to let you know that Jake is no longer employed with Morrison Marketing. I'm sorry to hear that, Tom. She wasn't sorry, but professionalism mattered. After investigating the claims about company credit card misuse and the company truck, we had no choice. He stole over $8,000 in company funds and used company property for personal use. We're considering pressing charges. That's your decision to make. I also wanted to assure you that this won't affect our business relationship. Jake's employment and your consulting services are completely separate matters. I appreciate that, Tom. After she hung up, Heidi felt a moment of satisfaction. Jake's consequences were adding up quickly. Lost job, lost girlfriend, lost reputation, and soon to lose his half of their shared assets in the divorce. Helen Rodriguez called an hour later with more updates. Carmen's in the hospital, Helen said. Preterm labor complications. They've got her on bed rest trying to prevent early delivery. Is she okay? Heidi asked, then immediately felt annoyed at herself for caring. Physically she'll be fine. But she's alone. Jake hasn't been to see her, and her family is keeping their distance after all the lies came out. That's unfortunate. Heidi's tone was neutral. There's more. Carmen's been fired from her job for insurance fraud. Remember how she claimed to be in a domestic partnership with Jake to get pregnancy benefits? Well, since Jake was married to you the whole time, those claims were fraudulent. So she's unemployed, single, pregnant, and facing possible criminal charges for fraud. That's about right. Oh, and Jake is apparently staying with his brother now, but that's not going well either. His brother's wife found out about the affair and told Jake he's not welcome in their house around their kids. Heidi almost felt sorry for Jake. Almost. Then she remembered the $67,000 he'd stolen and the feeling passed. What about the restitution case? Patricia Wells filed the motion last Friday. Jake has 30 days to respond, but since he's unemployed and has no assets, collecting will be difficult. I don't care about collecting right now. I care about the judgment being on record. That afternoon, Heidi had lunch with her sister Nina and her mother Patricia. They'd asked to meet so they could apologize properly and figure out how to move forward as a family. I keep thinking about all the signs we missed, Nina said. All the things that should have told us something was wrong. Like what? Heidi asked. Like how Jake always seemed to know when you were calling Carmen so he could make sure he wasn't around. Or how Carmen started dressing differently a few months ago, wearing more expensive clothes and jewelry. Patricia nodded. And how Jake suddenly became so interested in baby things, asking me about my pregnancies, what supplies new parents need. He was preparing to be a father, Heidi realized. With Carmen. But the biggest sign, Nina continued, was how uncomfortable Jake seemed whenever you talked about your future together. Like when you mentioned wanting to look at bigger houses, or when you talked about starting a family someday. Because he was already starting a family, Patricia said quietly. With someone else. They ate in silence for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts about missed opportunities to discover the truth. There's something I need to tell you both, Heidi said finally. I'm not the same person I was a week ago. What do you mean? Nina asked. I mean, this experience has changed me. I used to be the peacemaker, the one who avoided conflict, the one who tried to see everyone's side. But I can't be that person anymore. That's not necessarily bad, Patricia said. Maybe not. But it means I'm going to handle relationships differently from now on. I'm going to ask harder questions, demand more honesty, and cut people off faster if they prove untrustworthy. Nina nodded. I think that's healthy. It also means I'm not going to be as available for other people's drama. I'm not going to be the person everyone calls to fix their problems or mediate their conflicts. Heidi, Patricia said gently, you don't have to become a hard person just because someone hurt you. I'm not becoming hard, Mom. I'm becoming smart. There's a difference. That evening, Heidi received an unexpected visit at her hotel. Carmen's sister Maria was waiting in the lobby. Please don't call security, Maria said when she saw Heidi. I just need 5 minutes. What do you want, Maria? Carmen asked me to come. She's in the hospital and she wants to apologize to you properly. Then she can write me a letter. Heidi, please. She's really sick. The stress has been terrible for the pregnancy, and she's scared she's going to lose the baby. Maria, I'm going to say this once and I need you to really hear it. Carmen's pregnancy is not my responsibility. Carmen's stress is not my fault. Carmen's fear about losing the baby is not something I can or should fix. But you used to be best friends. No. Heidi's voice was firm. We were never best friends. Best friends don't sleep with each other's husbands. Best friends don't lie for 8 months. Best friends don't steal money and throw secret baby showers. Carmen was someone who pretended to be my friend while sabotaging my life. Maria's eyes filled with tears. She's really sorry. Being sorry doesn't undo the damage. Being sorry doesn't give me back the $67,000 she helped steal. Being sorry doesn't repair my relationship with family members who chose to believe her lies instead of asking me directly. So that's it? You're just going to let her suffer alone? Maria, Carmen chose to destroy our friendship. She chose to participate in deception and theft. She chose to hurt me in the deepest way possible. I didn't make those choices for her. Heidi stood up to leave. If Carmen wants to apologize, she can start by admitting publicly that she deliberately targeted my marriage, that she knew Jake wasn't separated, and that she helped him steal money from our joint accounts. She can start by telling the truth about her role in all this instead of playing victim. Will that make you forgive her? Heidi paused. Maria, forgiveness is not something Carmen can earn or deserve. If I ever forgive her, it will be for my own peace of mind, not because she's suffered enough or apologized properly. And forgiveness doesn't mean I have to have a relationship with her or help her through the consequences of her choices. After Maria left, Heidi sat in her hotel room thinking about friendship, forgiveness, and the price of betrayal. Tomorrow she had meetings with 3 new clients, all successful women who needed business consulting to rebuild their lives after divorce. She was building something new from the ashes of her old life. Something stronger, something smarter, something that couldn't be destroyed by lies and betrayal. Jake and Carmen had given her an unexpected gift. They'd shown her exactly who they really were, and exactly how strong she could be when pushed to her limit. She was grateful for the lesson, even if she'd never be grateful to the teachers. 6 months later, Heidi stood in the living room of her new house, watching the sunset through floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. The house was everything she'd dreamed of, modern, spacious, and entirely hers. No shared mortgage, no joint decisions, no compromises with someone who didn't share her values. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks ago. Jake had agreed to a settlement that gave Heidi 80% of their shared assets and required him to pay back the stolen $67,000 in monthly installments over the next 10 years. He'd also agreed to cover all legal fees. "This place is incredible," said Natasha, her assistant, as she set down a bottle of champagne on the kitchen counter. "I still can't believe you managed to buy it so quickly. Amazing what you can accomplish when you're not supporting a cheating husband and his pregnant girlfriend," Heidi replied with a smile. The past 6 months had been the most professionally successful period of Heidi's life. Word had spread about her situation and her response to it, and she discovered that many successful women wanted to work with someone who understood betrayal and knew how to fight back strategically. Her consulting business had grown by 300%. She'd taken on 12 new clients, all women rebuilding their lives after major personal setbacks. She'd also started speaking at conferences about resilience and strategic thinking in personal crisis. "The catering should arrive in 30 minutes, Natasha said, checking her tablet. 50 guests confirmed, including several potential new clients and that journalist from Forbes who wants to interview you about your business growth." Tonight's housewarming party was as much a business networking event as a personal celebration. Heidi had learned to leverage every opportunity, to turn even social events into chances to build her professional network. The doorbell rang. Her first guests were early. Heidi. Michelle, her business partner, arrived with her husband and 2 bottles of wine. "This house is gorgeous. I'm so proud of you." "Thank you. I'm proud of me too." More guests arrived quickly. Colleagues, clients, new friends she'd made through professional organizations. People who shared her values, who appreciated honesty and hard work, who had earned their place in her life. Patricia Wells, her attorney, came with her husband. "How does it feel to be completely legally free?" she asked. "Like I can breathe again," Heidi said honestly. "I didn't realize how much energy I was spending on that relationship until I stopped." "Any regrets? About the divorce?" "None. About not seeing through Jake's lies sooner? Sometimes. But mostly I'm grateful I found out when I did instead of wasting more years. An hour into the party, Heidi was talking with the Forbes journalist when Natasha approached with a concerned expression. Heidi, there's someone at the door who says she needs to speak with you. Carmen Rodriguez. Should I call security? The conversations around Heidi stopped. Several people turned to look, recognizing the name from the social media drama months earlier. It's okay, Heidi said calmly. I'll handle it. She walked to the front door, where Carmen stood holding a baby carrier. Carmen looked exhausted, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt. The contrast to Heidi's elegant cocktail dress and perfectly styled appearance was striking. Hello, Carmen. Hi. Carmen's voice was small. I'm sorry to interrupt your party. I know I have no right to be here. You don't? What do you want? Carmen shifted the baby carrier. I wanted you to meet Isabella. And I wanted to apologize to you properly. Heidi looked at the baby, Jake's baby, sleeping peacefully in the carrier. She felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no connection. Just indifference. Congratulations on your daughter. Now please leave. Heidi, please. Just let me say what I came to say. Fine. You have 2 minutes. Carmen took a shaky breath. You were right about everything. About Jake, about me, about the choices we made. I was jealous of your life, your success, your marriage. I convinced myself that Jake was unhappy with you, but the truth is I made him unhappy with you. Heidi said nothing. I pursued him deliberately. I knew he was married, I knew you weren't separated, and I helped him lie to everyone. I wanted what you had, and I thought I could take it. And how did that work out for you? Carmen's eyes filled with tears. I'm a single mother working 2 part-time jobs to pay for daycare. Jake pays child support when he can, but he's still unemployed and living with his brother. I lost my career, my friends, my reputation. I destroyed my life trying to steal yours. Yes, you did. I know you'll probably never forgive me, and I don't deserve forgiveness anyway. But I needed you to know that I understand what I did was wrong. Not just the affair, but the deliberate targeting of your marriage. You trusted me, and I used that trust to hurt you. Heidi studied Carmen's face. She looked older, worn down by the consequences of her choices. The baby started fussing, and Carmen gently rocked the carrier. Carmen, I appreciate you coming here to take responsibility for your actions. But you're right, I'm not going to forgive you. Not because I'm holding a grudge, but because forgiveness implies a relationship and we don't have one anymore. Carmen nodded. I understand. I hope you've learned something from this experience. I hope you'll make better choices going forward, for your daughter's sake if not your own. I will. I promise. Good luck, Carmen. Heidi closed the door and returned to her party. Several guests looked at her with curiosity, but she simply smiled and rejoined the conversation with the journalist as if nothing had happened. Later that evening, after the last guest had left, Heidi sat on her back patio with a glass of wine, reflecting on the night. Carmen's visit had been unexpected, but it had also been satisfying in a way. Not because Carmen had suffered, Heidi took no pleasure in that, but because it had shown her how far she'd come. 6 months ago, she would have felt guilty about Carmen's situation. She would have worried about the baby, felt sorry for a single mother struggling financially. She might even have offered help. But tonight she'd felt only indifference. Carmen's problems were not hers to solve. Carmen's daughter was not her responsibility. Carmen's regret was not her burden to carry. She'd learned to protect her energy, to save her compassion for people who deserved it, to build boundaries that couldn't be crossed by tears or manipulation or claims of remorse. Her phone buzzed with a text from Brandon, the entrepreneur she'd been dating for the past 3 months. How was the party? Sorry I couldn't make it, still stuck in meetings in Denver. She smiled as she typed back. Perfect. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Brandon was everything Jake hadn't been: honest, successful, secure enough in himself not to be threatened by her ambition. They'd met at a business conference, and their relationship had grown naturally from mutual respect and genuine compatibility. He knew her story, had seen her at her most vulnerable during the final weeks of the divorce proceedings, and he admired her strength. He didn't try to fix her or protect her or save her from her own choices. He simply supported her and loved her exactly as she was. As Heidi locked up her beautiful new house and prepared for bed, she thought about the difference between her old life and her new one. The old Heidi had been trusting to a fault, accommodating, willing to sacrifice her own needs to keep others happy. She'd built her life around Jake's needs, Carmen's friendship, her family's expectations. The new Heidi built her life around her own values, her own goals, her own definition of success. She'd learned that love without respect was worthless, that friendship without honesty was fake, and that forgiveness without accountability was enabling. She'd risen from the ashes of her destroyed marriage stronger, smarter, and more successful than she'd ever imagined possible. Jake and Carmen had tried to destroy her life. Instead, they'd forced her to build a better one. 1 year later, Heidi stood at the podium of the Grand Ballroom at the Hilton, looking out at an audience of 500 successful women. The annual Women in Business Conference had invited her as the keynote speaker to talk about turning crisis into opportunity. A year ago, I came home from a business trip to find my husband and my best friend hosting a baby shower in my house, she began. That moment of betrayal became the catalyst for the best year of my life. The audience was riveted as she told her story, not as a victim seeking sympathy, but as a strategist explaining how she turned a devastating personal crisis into professional triumph. I learned that when people show you who they really are, believe them the first time. I learned that loyalty has to be earned and re-earned continuously. And I learned that the best revenge is not just success, but success built on principles they couldn't understand or maintain. After her speech, women lined up to thank her, to share their own stories, to ask for her business card. Heidi had become more than a consultant. She'd become a symbol of how to handle betrayal with dignity and strength. That evening, she returned to her house to find Brandon in the kitchen, cooking dinner and wearing the apron she'd bought him that said "World's Best Dishwasher." "How was the speech?" he asked, kissing her cheek. "Perfect. Standing ovation and 12 new client inquiries. I'm proud of you." He handed her a glass of her favorite wine. "There's something I need to talk to you about." Heidi's heart skipped. After 18 months of dating, she'd been wondering when Brandon might propose. They'd talked about marriage, about building a life together, about the kind of partnership they both wanted. "Okay," she said, settling onto the couch next to him. "I know we've talked about getting married," Brandon began, "and I know you have some complex feelings about marriage after what happened with Jake." "I do, but not about marrying you." "Good, because I have something for you." He pulled out a small velvet box. Heidi's breath caught. The ring inside was beautiful, a simple solitaire diamond in a platinum setting. Elegant, classic, perfect for her style. "Heidi Martinez, will you marry me?" Brandon asked. "Will you build a real partnership with someone who sees your strength as a gift, not a threat?" "Yes," she said immediately. "Yes, absolutely yes." As Brandon slipped the ring onto her finger, Heidi thought about the difference between this proposal and Jake's 5 years earlier. Jake had proposed during a fight as a way to avoid dealing with their problems. Brandon was proposing during the strongest, healthiest period of both their lives, as a celebration of what they'd already built together. "I have one condition," she said with a smile. "Anything. Completely separate bank accounts. I'm never sharing finances again." Brandon laughed. "Deal. I actually prefer it that way too." They spent the evening planning their engagement party, deciding on a guest list of people who had supported them both throughout their relationship. People with integrity, people who celebrated honesty and success, people who had earned their place in their lives. 3 weeks later, the engagement party was held at Brandon's downtown loft. Heidi wore a stunning red dress and the confidence of a woman who had rebuilt her entire life on her own terms. The party was everything her old life hadn't been: genuine, honest, celebratory without hidden agendas. Her mother and Nina were there, beaming with pride at how far she'd come. Her business colleagues mixed with Brandon's friends, creating new connections and opportunities. Patricia Wells, her attorney, raised a toast. To Heidi and Brandon, proof that the best relationships are built on truth, respect, and mutual admiration. As the evening wound down, Heidi found herself on the balcony with Michelle, her business partner. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't come home early that day?" Michelle asked. "Sometimes. But I think I would have found out eventually. Jake wasn't smart enough to maintain that level of deception indefinitely." "Any regrets about how you handled it?" Heidi considered the question. "I regret trusting people who hadn't earned it. I regret not seeing the signs earlier. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret demanding consequences. And I definitely don't regret refusing to make their problems my responsibility." "What about Jake and Carmen? Do you ever wonder how they're doing?" "Not really." Heidi's voice was matter-of-fact. "Helen still sends me updates occasionally. Jake's working at a car dealership and living in a one-bedroom apartment. He sees his daughter every other weekend. Carmen is working as a dental receptionist and living with her mother. They tried to get back together a few months ago, but it didn't work out." "Do you feel sorry for them?" "I feel sorry for Isabella, She deserves better parents than two people who destroyed multiple lives for momentary pleasure. But Jake and Carmen? They're living the natural consequences of their choices. I can't feel sorry for that. As the party ended and guests began leaving, Heidi reflected on how much had changed in just 2 years. She'd gone from being a woman who discovered her husband's affair to being a successful entrepreneur engaged to a man who valued her exactly as she was. Her business had grown from a small consulting practice to a thriving company with 12 employees. She'd written a book about strategic thinking in personal crisis that had become a bestseller. She'd been featured on the covers of 3 business magazines and had speaking engagements booked through the next year. Most importantly, she'd learned to trust her instincts, to value herself properly, and to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than convenience or history. Brandon found her on the balcony as the last guests were leaving. "Happy?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her. "Incredibly happy," she said honestly. "I feel like I'm finally living the life I was meant to have." "Not the life you planned?" "Better than the life I planned. The life I planned was built around making other people comfortable. This life is built around making myself proud." As they cleaned up from the party, Heidi thought about the message she'd received that afternoon. Jake had somehow gotten her new phone number and sent a text. "Saw the engagement announcement in the paper. I'm happy for you. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday." She deleted the message without responding. Jake still didn't understand that her forgiveness was not something he could earn or request. Her happiness was not dependent on absolving him of his guilt. She'd moved beyond forgiveness to something more powerful: indifference. Jake's guilt was his burden to carry. Carmen's regret was her cross to bear. Their attempts to ease their consciences were not Heidi's responsibility. Standing in her beautiful home, engaged to a man who cherished her strength, running a business built on helping other women reclaim their power, Heidi knew she had achieved the sweetest victory possible. She hadn't just survived their betrayal. She'd used it as fuel to build a life so much better than anything she'd had with Jake that their affair seemed like a favor in retrospect. They tried to destroy her. Instead, they'd freed her to become who she was always meant to be. The phoenix had risen from the ashes, and she was magnificent.